Jesus called me, gonna lay me down, put my body in the cold hard ground. Captain, tell me, gonna hold me down, lay me down, lay me down, lay me down.
I'm at Alcatraz right now. And can you just imagine this place full of prisoners? I mean, this was known for where the worst of the worst would go, the most notorious criminals that did some of the grossest things imaginable. And some of it's so disgusting that you ask yourself, man, what would drive someone to do something like that? How could they do something so evil? Well, what the book of James teaches is that, hey, before you start judging them, you know, the things that cause them to do what they do, look at your own heart also. Because it's about this emptiness. It's about you trying to find fulfillment in something other than God that causes this fighting, this quarreling. James actually asks this question in James chapter 4. He starts off saying, what causes quarrels and what causes fights among you? Is it not that your passions are at war within you? You desire and you don't have, so you murder. You covet and you cannot obtain, so you fight and quarrel. You do not have because you do not ask. He says, what's causing all this murder? What's causing all this crime? Isn't it that something inside of you is lacking? You're not fulfilled, you're wanting something, and so you do whatever it takes. If it means stealing, if it means killing, you just have to have it because you're not at peace. He says it's an emptiness. It's these passions waging war in you, like a frustration, like I want this, I'm not fulfilled, and you just got to get it somehow. And then all the people around you, you get frustrated with them. Husbands and wives start fighting because you're not bringing me fulfillment. You're not giving me, you're not being the man I married. You're not being the, it's all of this at the heart of you. And he goes, and the reason for all this, the reason for all of these arguments, you never really asked God to fulfill you. And he says, and maybe you asked, but he says in that next verse, you ask and you don't receive because you ask wrongly. Did you know that there's a way to pray that is just wrong? He explains it right there. He says to spend it on your passions. You're not praying to God in the right way, which is saying, God, I know that you're enough for me. Just show me your beauty. You know, let's get this relationship right again so that you are what for. Instead, you're asking for things. You're asking for things of the world, saying, God, I want this, I want this. Give me this. This will fulfill me. This will fill that emptiness and that passion that's in me. And that's why in the very next verse, he uses this phrase. He says, you adulterous people. You adulterous people. It's that picture. Why would he choose that term, adulterous? Because he's saying, look, you could have this relationship with God that is so fulfilling. Man, he will meet every one of your needs. But instead, you're thinking you need something else. So you actually ask the one who loves you to give you something else that would replace him and actually bring you pleasure. And he calls that adultery. And then he goes on to say, do you not know that friendship with the world is enmity with God? Therefore, whoever wishes to be a friend of the world makes himself an enemy of God. Or do you suppose it is to no purpose that the scripture says he yearns jealously over the Spirit that he has made to dwell in us? And that's such a beautiful passage. He goes, don't you get it? He goes, don't you understand why the scriptures say that he, like God, the creator of the whole universe, it says that he yearns jealously. He, like right now, God yearns for me. He yearns for you, like he's jealous for you. But instead of us looking to him and go, yes, God, you're the one I want, you're going, hey, God, actually, you're not enough. In fact, can you give me this? Can you give me this? Can you give me this? And he says, don't you understand that once you start pursuing these other things, he goes, you become an enemy of God. That's a strong phrase. It's not about you saying, God, you are my enemy. It's about God looking at you and saying, you're my enemy. Strong, strong phrase that makes us evaluate our lives and go, God, am I? Is that me? Am I so in love with the world? And am I just not even trying to find fulfillment through you? That's why Jesus said of his disciples in John 17, he says, you know what? The world hates them because they're not of the world, because they love me. You see, you can't have both. You can't say, okay, well, I want God, but I also want all of this. He says, no, you choose. And God is yearning for you. And the beautiful thing that he says next is he says, but he gives more grace. In other words, even if you've rejected him your whole life, even if you've just said, you know what, God, you're not enough, I want all, he says, you know what, he'll show you grace right now. He'll give you something you don't deserve. He will still allow you into relationship with him. I love that. He says, okay, maybe you've got this all wrong. Maybe you've spent your life pursuing these other things and you've missed out on this relationship. He says, but that's okay. He'll give you more grace. Just at this point, he says, humble yourselves, because God opposes the proud, but he gives grace to the humble. So he says, right now, just quit being arrogant and defending why you were pursuing this. Just humble yourself. God will give you grace. Humble yourself. Don't get arrogant. And then he gives us some steps. He says, submit yourselves to God. Resist the devil. Draw near to God and he will draw near to you. So it's real simple. He says, submit to him. Enough of this, hey, kind of bossing God around, like, why didn't you do this? Why didn't you? He goes, submit yourself to him. He says, resist the devil and he'll flee from you. And then he says, draw near to God. You right now, he says, you could draw near to God and he'll draw near to you. It doesn't matter what you've been pursuing. He'll give you more grace right now. If you'll just stop, submit yourself to him, resist all the temptations that Satan's throwing your way, and draw near to God. He uses some very strong words after that. He says, cleanse your hands, you sinners. Purify your hearts, you double-minded. Be wretched and mourn and weep. Let your laughter be turned into mourning and your joy to gloom. Humble yourselves before the Lord, and he will exalt you. It's this idea of brokenness. It's this idea of finally coming to the end of yourself and go, God, what was I thinking? I was going after this. I was going after that. I was even laughing about it. I was parading around in my pride of, oh, look, God has no right to. He says, you know what? Be wretched now. Just break down and go, God, I think I've missed the whole point of life. Even if you grew up in church, maybe you were never taught that prayer isn't just about asking God for all the things you're desiring. It's about recognizing, God, I want you. You're the one who'll fulfill. You're the one that can take care of all of my desires. And you walk away from all of the junk and say, God, no, it's you that I want. And I'm sorry for that adulterous life where I just went after so many other things that I thought could fulfill. And it didn't fulfill me. It's getting me irritable and it's causing me to fight and quarrel with other people. And then he closes this section and it says, do not speak evil against one another, brothers. The one who speaks against a brother or judges his brother speaks evil against the law and judges the law. But if you judge the law, you are not a doer of the law, but a judge. There's only one lawgiver and one judge, and he is able to save and to destroy. But who are you to judge your neighbor? He says, so let's quit the fighting. Find your fulfillment in God. I mean, even when you judge other people and you assume, you know what, I'm better than this guy or that guy over there, let's just forget about it. Who do you think you are that you're judging and saying you're above someone else? Just recognize there's going to be one judge at the end, and we're all going to be sentenced by him. We're going to be held accountable by him, and it's not about what we think. And right now to just say, you know what, God, I think I've blown it. I've pursued so many things that you've hated, and I've missed out on the point of life. And God's saying, that's great. Now just draw near to me. I've wanted this. have jealously yearned for this. Now walk away from all that other stuff and come to me, and I'll fulfill everything you ever wanted.